Hi TJs, I'm very lucky to have an absolutely fabulous guest with us today. Not only is she great in what she does, she's also a personal friend of mine. So Cara, please tell us a little bit about who you are, where you are, and what you do.
Hi, TJ. I'm Cara North. I'm a senior learning experience designer at The Ohio State University in Columbus, Ohio, in the United States. So I've been in this space. This is actually year 11, 12, something like that, in the L&D space. And I'm also a PhD student in learning technologies at The Ohio State University. So I work full time and I'm also a student. So I'm hoping to finish that up hopefully next year.
Fantastic. So not busy at all then. I'm glad you
No.
found time for us today. And the subject that we wanted to talk about was how we can help others update their learning and development knowledge and experience. And that's really probably, I think it's the remit of every L&D professional. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's really difficult, especially when, well, okay, there's a couple of tiers. One, I feel like when you're brand new to it, you can really kind of find a fire hose of content, right? And as we know, content, articles, is all ubiquitous. So it's very difficult to find out kind of what's real and maybe what's myth, that kind of stuff. But also, I feel like the mid-level and senior level professionals, a lot of times it's hard for them too, because a lot of the stuff that's out there that's easily accessible is tips for beginners and how would you start to do this. A lot of content isn't really tailored for that mid-level or senior level roles, so it is a big issue out there, Joe.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning and move to the kind of mid-level later on. Now, one of the things I noticed a few weeks ago, so I have no idea when this recording is coming out, so at an other time in the past, I noticed that you had shared a tweet saying that somebody in academia had shared about things like learning styles and the memory span, and there were like four different learning myths that we know to be myths that they had been referencing. So first of all, when you saw that in an academic situation, what was your reaction?
That that was my reaction. That was my reaction because I think it really does illustrate this need for being the consummate professional, right? And needing to continually to grow and research everything that you're putting out there. Now, if there is a defense, this particular person that shared that did not have that education background, so it wasn't something that they probably would have seen kind of throughout their studies. But then on the other hand, I'm like, well, why on earth wouldn't you research and dig a little bit deeper about what these concepts that you're talking about? And it's also very difficult because I've had some conversations with other people about, oh my gosh, what should I do about this? And the consensus, at least in my network, is nobody wants to be told they're wrong. Nobody wants to hear that, especially if you have different research to kind of back up the other perspectives. So I do think a big part of this in this broad conversation, no matter where you are in your career, is that open mindset and being open for feedback and open for trying to think about things in a different way. And I do think that kind of thinking really does distinguish somebody who is like basically a practitioner day through day to a professional, right? Because I feel like if you are a professional, you're open and you welcome that feedback, and that's something that you want to continue to learn.
Yeah, and I think there are different ways to handle it. Like you say, Kathy Moore has a great blog on her website about how to handle that when people bring up learning styles, for instance. I had somebody bring up learning styles in a session today, and I tackled it by saying, if you mean everybody's a visual, auditory, or kinesthetic learner, we should teach to that. There's no science behind it. Here's some resources, so you can go and check that out if you want to. But if actually you mean we should just use a variety of different things, then yeah, actually that's really great. I always try and kind of twist it to a positive. And also I think the other problem is, and I think you've just been recording a debunking podcast on your own podcast, is actually there's so much out there that will tell you learning styles exist, or I've got a blog that says 65% of us are all visual learners, which I've debunked, and it's all out there. So even if you do research it, it's out there saying that actually there is research for it. So how are we supposed to handle that?
And that's tough. I mean, it is tough to dig through all of that because, again, if you do go to even Google Scholar or different academic websites where you would search for these different researches, yeah, absolutely. Some of that stuff is out there and it's been printed, and there's a lot of people that make money on some of this stuff. I mean, let's be honest here. So yeah, it's not easy. So you understand, I mean, a big part of you, you are empathetic and you do feel bad for people that kind of fall into this trap, right? Because it's so easy to find all this information. But on the other hand, when you know that that's not the way that it needs to be, and it's so dangerous if there's somebody in a position of power in a higher ed institution saying this stuff, I mean, I hate to say this, but a lot of times, if depending on where that person sits in an organization, you don't want to question that. You want to assume that they've done their due diligence and that they're speaking kind of the truth on that. So it really is kind of a catch 22.
So let's assume we're in a position where maybe we've been in the profession a few years, we've got a few things under our belt, we're starting to get to know the lay of the land and how to research what's wrong and how to do that next level down of research. What are the kind of things we should be doing to help inform either new people or even that kind of mid to senior level who do have that open mindset? How would you approach that, do you think?
I fully believe that a high tide raises all boats. And I think no matter where someone sits in the organization, whether they're brand new or mid level, there is something that you can learn from every interaction that you have with somebody, I feel like. So being able to have kind of this open mindset, having these people be part of a solution. So, for example, at an organization, let's say that there's a new project, give somebody that's newer maybe an opportunity to lead a portion of that or give them some guidance on how they would lead it, have them shadow you, and then maybe bring in different perspectives. And I'm a big fan of it doesn't always have to be an L&D. Like see if you can involve people from other sides of the organization to give their perspective. So that way you're going to learn more about that business piece that maybe you may not if you're in kind of that L&D bubble.
Really love that. And that's a big conversation point, being inside the L&D bubble and not knowing enough about the business. Because it's not just developing our knowledge and experience about learning and development, but what you're tackling here is actually our knowledge about the organisation that we're working within.
Yeah, and ultimately, I feel like we should be the stewards of learning, right? So if we're not continually growing and expanding on our knowledge and our networks, then why on earth would we expect others to do it?
So I know that you are absolutely great at your networking on LinkedIn and Twitter and things like that. What are some tips that you can give us on developing that personal learning network so that you do have people around you that help you to gain knowledge and experience in your field and outside of it?
Ooh, that's a great question. So I probably have like three tips. I think the first one would be share. So it starts with you sharing information to that network. Even if only one person likes it or no people like it doesn't matter. So for example, if I read an article that I think is really kind of interesting, instead of me saying, huh, I found that really interesting, I like to share it because maybe someone else is looking for that same information. So it doesn't necessarily have to be your own native thoughts, but it can be something that you found interesting that you want to share in the community. Second is find people that have a skill set outside of yours. So for example, there are different areas in the L&D business that I know that I'm weak in. So I like to network with people that have different perspectives than me. So that way I can learn more from them about some of the information that they're sharing in that, and it's making me a better L&D professional by having those people in your network. And three, be sure to encourage people. So if you see somebody that's just brand new to instructional design and they're saying, I need help, can somebody help me? Be that person. So step up, introduce them to somebody, help them because you just never know how that will help you kind of in the future. And plus, it just feels so good to help other people because I know personally, Joe, and I know you probably feel the same way. There's so many people that's helped me get to where I currently am. And I've said multiple times, how could I ever repay you? And they always say, pay it forward. So being able to pay it forward and help and guide other people, that's what it's all about.
And that is a fantastic way to end our discussion today. Thank you so much. Where can we find out more about you and your work?
Okay, so I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter. So if you search for Cara North 11, you should be able to find me on both those platforms. And I do also have my own website, caranorth.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.